When you're dealing with really high-stakes systems like US immigration or finance, what's written down on the page is really only half the story. You know, success often comes down to understanding the invisible rules, the strategic logic that's working behind the scenes. And today, that's exactly what we're going to unpack.
So let's just start with a question that gets right to the heart of all this. When you're staring at a huge stack of official forms, what is the single most dangerous assumption you could possibly make?
Well, it's this: thinking that the rules are simple and that one tiny little mistake isn't going to matter. But in reality, precision is everything. A single unchecked box, one misunderstood term. It can lead to delays, denials, or honestly, something much, much worse.
Okay, let's see how this actually plays out. In our first section, we're going to look at how a single line on a single form can set off some truly irreversible consequences. Now, what's so fascinating here is the huge difference in what happens with two violations that kind of look the same on the surface. So, working without authorization, that's a serious problem for sure. But for immediate relatives of US citizens, it can often be forgiven. On the other hand, falsely claiming to be a US citizen to get a job, well, that's a whole different story. For most people, that's an unforgivable act that can get you permanently barred from the country. And this is where you really see just how specific these rules are. That forgiveness we just talked about, it's a privilege saved only for relatives of US citizens. If your sponsor is a lawful permanent resident, a green card holder, that same mistake is not forgiven. The system's logic is just incredibly precise, and who your sponsor is changes everything. Here's another perfect example of a tiny detail that makes a huge difference. On a sponsorship form, they ask for your income. You might look at your tax return, see adjusted gross income, or AGI, and think, yeah, that's the number. But it's not. The system actually needs the total income, which is on a completely different line. Line 9 on the 1040 form. Using the AGI is pretty much a guaranteed way to get a request for evidence, which can stall your case for months.
So, we've seen the traps you can fall into by misunderstanding the system, but what if you could actually use its logic to your advantage? In this next section, we're going to explore how a really deep understanding of the rules can become a powerful strategic tool.
All right, first things first, we need to get our heads around a key concept, the pass-through entity. With something like an LLC or an S-corp, the business itself doesn't pay income tax. Instead, the profits pass through to the owner's personal tax return. This structure is the key that unlocks some really powerful financial strategies. The real secret here is to completely shift how you think about the tax code. It's not just about collecting money. According to experts, it's basically a series of incentives designed to encourage things the government wants to see happen, like, say, providing housing. The government offers tax breaks, and investors provide the houses. It's a two-way street.
So this is where things get really strategic. Investors can use this tool called a cost segregation study. Basically, it separates a property's parts, like the carpet, the lights, from the actual building. Why do that? Because you can then write off the value of those parts way faster, like over 5 to 15 years instead of the standard 27.5. This creates a big paper loss, a huge deduction that can offset your income, even while the property is actually going up in value.
So what does that actually look like in real dollars? Well, for a building worth about $500,000, this strategy could create a first-year depreciation deduction of as much as $120,000. That is a massive deduction you can use against your other income.
Okay, now here's the really advanced move. Normally, these paper losses can only cancel out passive income, like from other rentals. But there's this loophole for short-term rentals, where people stay for 7 days or less on average. This lets those losses offset your active income from your day job or your main business, which can dramatically slash your overall tax bill.
But just like there are huge rewards for navigating the system strategically, there are some really severe penalties for getting it wrong or for trying to cheat it.
And the stakes here are incredibly high. I mean, it's one thing to make an honest mistake, but it's something else entirely to submit fake documents. As experts warn, giving immigration a tax return that you never actually filed with the IRS isn't just an error that'll get your case denied, it could potentially be seen as a crime with serious legal consequences.
The financial consequences are just as real. If you owe a big tax debt, the IRS can put a legal lien on your property. That's a claim against your assets. And if you don't pay up, that lien can turn into a levy, which means they have the right to actually seize your property, your car, your house, and sell it off at a public auction to get their money back.
Over in the immigration world, there's this key phrase you have to understand: public charge. It basically refers to someone who is likely to become mainly dependent on the government to get by. And it's been a reason for denying visas for a long time.
But, and this is wild, recent guidance has stretched this idea into totally new territory. Now officials can look at chronic health conditions like diabetes when deciding if someone might become a public charge. The worry isn't about public health, it's about the potential future cost to the government. All of a sudden, your personal health could be the very reason you get denied. The results of a miscalculation can be devastating. First up, a visa denial. After years of waiting and planning, one mistake can bring your entire journey to a screeching halt.
Then there's asset seizure. A financial mistake isn't just about paying a fine. It could literally mean the government taking your home or your car and selling it. And in the most extreme immigration cases, a permanent bar. This isn't a delay, this is the end of the road. It permanently slams the door to the United States shut.
So, after seeing the huge risks and the powerful rewards, the big question is, how should we even approach these systems? And that brings us to our final section, on moving from just following the rules to really mastering them. And here's the most important takeaway from all of this. Mastering these systems, it demands a complete shift in your mindset. It's about moving away from passive compliance, just filling out the forms, and towards strategic engagement. It's about understanding the logic, the incentives, and the consequences behind every single rule.
And that brings us to one last thought. You know, these ideas don't just apply to taxes or immigration. So, I'll leave you with this question to think about. In your own life, what are the invisible rules shaping your most important goals? Because figuring those out is always the first step to mastering the system. Thanks for joining me.